Making this album was definitely a journey, and it was a journey that I did not think was going to happen how it did. So starting at the beginning, in January of 2020, I released my song called Memories Not Dreams. And my team and I had basically planned out that that was going to be the first single off of my new project. We didn't know at the time if that was going to be an EP, an album, just some more singles. We weren't really sure yet, but by the time February came around, we had kind of collectively decided, okay, we're gonna do a full album because we haven't done one in a long time. It's overdue, we need to do an album. So I was in the middle of planning out studio time for the next few songs on this record, and then the world shut down. The pandemic hit, and I just remember sitting in my studio wondering, what now? What am I gonna do? How is this going to happen? Is it going to happen? And I had always had this thing in the back of my head thinking, wow, wouldn't it be so cool if I produced my own record? I've always co-produced my music, but I've never just self-produced my own record. I went to school for audio recording. I do my own demos. I do demos for other artists. I produced other artists. I just never took on the whole deal of doing my own project myself. I guess I doubted myself. I was scared. I didn't think I could do it. But the pandemic kind of forced me to just bite the bullet and do it. So I went to my team and I said, okay, I have an idea. What if I do a song completely self-produced? If we like it, if it's good enough quality, I'll do a whole album myself. If it's not what we need it to be, if it's not up to par, then we'll figure something out. And they said, okay, that's a good plan, let's do that. So I did that. I got right to work on my favorite song, which ended up being the follow-up single. And my team loved how it came out. We got some advice and opinions from other people in the industry, and they all said, this sounds great, this is awesome. After that, it was official. I was doing my own album on my own. And I was excited, I was terrified, I was super stressed out, but it ended up being a beautiful journey of growth. After that, I got right to work on my songs, Ain't Ever Going Back and Psychology, and those 4 songs ended up being the singles prior to announcing the album. I had a big handful of songs that I had to finish to get this album done. My goal was to have somewhere between 12 and 15 songs. I feel like that's kind of the standard when it comes to albums, and I was more about quality over quantity, so I didn't want to push to get 15 songs on there or more if the songs weren't great. I really wanted to make sure every song was great. So I got right to work on writing a lot. I had a lot of remote writing sessions because of the COVID pandemic. So I wrote a lot over Skype and Zoom and Google Hangout, and it was weird. I had done some writes like that in the past, but this definitely was an adjustment. But you know what? I got some of my favorite songs I've ever written out of those sessions. And a lot of them were with people I've written with a lot in the past. So we already had a good chemistry, good connection there, so it wasn't too difficult. But you know, I got to write a lot of songs in my pajamas and my slippers, so it was really fun. And I would say I wrote maybe up until summer, and then I finally felt like I had all the songs I needed for the album. And then my focus completely shifted to just producing and getting all these tracks recorded and done so I could then send it to mixing and mastering. That was definitely when the really hard work started. Writing is hard work too, but that's a different thing entirely than recording. You have to completely shift your focus. So basically I got into this routine where I would wake up in the morning, make myself some coffee, have some breakfast, go right into my studio, basically lock myself in there and just record all day and get these tracks as good as I could possibly make them, go to sleep, repeat the next day. Sometimes I would stop for some food, some bathroom breaks, some things like that, but I really was in my studio the entire day when I would work. It was really challenging. I definitely hit a lot of roadblocks. One of the biggest roadblocks I hit was in the middle of producing this record. I had to completely redo my studio setup. I was working on a really old laptop that I would call a dinosaur, that even the Apple Store was like, how is this thing still running for you? And eventually, about maybe like a third of the way through this record, it just decided, nope, I'm done. That's it. I've done all I can do. So I knew what would happen sooner or later. It was giving me signs that the computer was not going to last much longer. And then I had to get a new computer, a new interface, learn how to use the new interface, set up the new computer, get all of the data transferred from one computer to the other. So that was a big deal. But it turned out to be a really good thing because I ended up with a computer that can much better handle all of the high power work that I need to do. And the new interface I got just, I feel like it made everything sound better. It was easier to work with. So it ended up being a good thing, but in the moment when it happened, I was like, oh no. Another big thing was I live in an apartment. Dealing with neighbors was a big deal. There were a lot of times that I had to stop recording because my neighbor would be blasting music, or there would be a delivery truck outside, or there would be a big rainstorm, or there was construction going on. So I had to like schedule my recording sessions around things like that. Like I knew when the lawn crew would be here, so I had to not record while they were here, things like that. And another thing that was kind of a struggle was the fact that I have 2 cats, and being home 24/7, they saw that as an opportunity to get attention 24/7. So if I locked them out of my studio, they'd scratch on the door and they'd put their paws under the door and like grab the foam I have on my door for some good sound isolation and things like that. And they like demanded to be in the room at all times. So there were a lot of times that they would be on my lap or on my desk while I was trying to work. And that was interesting. There were a few takes that I had to scrap because they had meows, or you could hear their little bell on their collar, you could hear it jingling or something like that. So that was a struggle. A lot of it too was just, I had to do everything myself. That was good and bad, because it was good because I had, full control over stuff, but it was bad because if anything went wrong, I had to figure it out. No one else was involved, so it was all me. I had to figure it out and fix it and make it right, and there were a lot of things that I definitely had to figure out how to do, and there were a lot of things that were just really time consuming. Like I had to run back and forth into my closet because that's where I do my vocals, because it's where it sounds the best. So I would run back and forth to my closet, to my computer, and there were a couple times that I like got out of breath because I was running back and forth so many times to get like short takes here and there that I just had to be like, okay, we're good, and then record the vocal take. Pretty much all summer, I would say, was when I was really deep in recording mode. And once it got to be, I set deadlines in my head, so I had really wanted to get everything done recording-wise by the end of October, and I did that. So by the end of October, I was ready to send everything to mixing. And I sent this to a really good friend of mine, Aaron Chmielski, to mix these songs, because he just makes them sound so like sparkly and awesome. So I got all the mixes back and they sounded incredible, and the next final step was mastering. So I sent everything to mastering. We had it mastered at Yes Master Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. And I would say we got the masters back by end of November. That was kind of another deadline I put in my head. So at that point the album was basically done. And the final step was to get the packaging together. So I had a photo shoot that went incredible. I designed all the packaging myself and figured out the color scheme and things like that. I actually had my fans help me decide on a title in my fan club called the Trey Fam Club on Patreon, so they got to help me pick a title, which was super fun, and we actually ended up going with the title that they voted on. Before the holidays is when it was officially done. It was submitted to be distributed. It was out of my hands, which for me is always terrifying because I'm a little bit of a workaholic, a perfectionist, a little OCD. I like to control it and like see everything, make sure it's perfect, things like that. So then it got to be 2021, and I feel like everybody, I was like, oh, it's finally 2021, we made it through 2020. And then I got the physical albums in the mail, which I was so anxious about because I was like, oh, there's gotta be something wrong with them. Like, what if I screwed up on them? So they came in the mail, and I opened them, and it was just like, it finally felt real, you know? Like I got to hold it in my hand. This thing that I worked on for so long was in my hand. It was done. I feel like I had worked on it so hard for so long that my brain just kind of made it a someday thing, like a future thing. So I felt like, oh yeah, like down the line it'll be done. Like it's gonna be forever. And then that day was there and it was done, and I was looking at it and I was holding it and I was just like, it was real in that moment. So I was so excited. Now I'm so excited to have it out in the world for people to hear what I worked so hard on in 2020, and that I poured my heart and soul and literal blood, sweat, and tears, literally. I'm just so excited to have it out. I feel like this album really represents me as an artist, as a songwriter, as a producer, as a person. It has everything from traditional ballads to modern bops and up-tempos, and it has some cool elements I never worked with before, and it's got, you know, those quote-unquote songwriter songs. It's got everything. So I'm so excited. That was one of my goals in the beginning, was to just have every song be its own thing. I didn't want it to be the kind of thing where every song sounded the same. I wanted every song to sound completely different, and I think we achieved that. I really hope people like it when they listen to it. It's like my child I'm letting out into the world, so I'm nervous, but I'm proud of it. I stand by it, so I hope people enjoy it and connect with it. I think the biggest struggle was just that I was in charge of everything, so I had to wear every hat. I was writing on everything. Obviously I had co-writers on some songs. You know, I had to make sure everything was set up right. I had to place the mics. I had to get the levels right. I had to pick out the sounds. I had to comp the vocals. I had to edit all the tracks. I had to send it to mixing. I had to send it to mastering. If anything ever went wrong, I had to figure it out. I had to fix it. It was all on me. So that was definitely really hard, because in the projects I've done in the past, I had at least one other person that I could kind of lean on, like co-producers or musicians, things like that. But on this one, 95% of it was just me. I did have a couple songs that I worked with some producers, and I had some musicians come in to kind of fill some gaps that I couldn't fill myself. But just having to wear every hat was very difficult, but it taught me so much, and it made me grow. It forced me to grow. I learned so much during this process. I think the biggest thing I learned was my strengths and my not so strengths as a producer. I really got to know what I'm good at and what maybe it's better that I have some other people come in if they are just incredible at that. So for example, when I was working on my song Psychology, I was trying to get the drums right, and I just wasn't happy with them. It's something about them, it wasn't clicking for me. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. So I ended up having a good friend of mine, Chris Benelli, come in, and he did real drums and programmed drums. And what he did just tied the song together perfectly. And I think that's kind of the beauty of co-writing and working with other musicians. But I really learned what I'm good at and what I need to grow at. The song that was the hardest to produce, I would say the hardest one was probably Suffocating, because that song was the biggest session of the whole album. It had the most tracks, so it had the most that could go wrong, and my computer did crash a lot during that session. It was tough because it's a very modern, edgy song, but I really wanted to make sure that it was still country. It had that country heart to it, so it was tough for me to bring it from the demo to the final recording, keep that integrity of the country heart, and just give the song what it needed. For some reason, that one was just a little tougher than the rest to really make sure I got right, and there were a couple reworks that I did for it, and I think I finally got there in the end. But that song did put up a little bit of a fight, but I love that song so much, and I think it ended up exactly how it had to be. I don't think there's anything I would do differently in this process. I am a believer that everything happens for a reason, and I feel like even my computer crashing happened for a reason. I feel like every roadblock, every bump I hit happened so I could learn and grow. I feel like it happened exactly how it was supposed to. I guess the only thing is, if I could go back and talk to myself, I would probably say chill, calm down, stop stressing out so much, because I did get really, really stressed about stuff when I really didn't have to be, but that's just me being a perfectionist, being just crazy about the whole process. So yeah, I would just tell myself, calm down, it's fine, it's gonna be fine, just keep working. My biggest hope for this album is that people can connect with it. I want people to listen to it and hear themselves in the songs, hear themselves in the stories. I really wanted this album to show every part of me as a writer, as an artist, and as a person. And I think I achieved that. There's everything from, you know, the traditional ballad to the up-tempo modern bops on it. And there's everything in between. There's songs about love, there's songs not about love. And I just hope people can connect with it, and I hope they get a really good sense for me as a person, writer, and artist. And I hope that people like it. That's always the goal when, you know, when an artist puts something out. We just want people to like it. We want them to connect with it. So I hope that people do like it. I hope they do connect with it. They hear themselves in the songs, and I hope that it's an album that people can still listen to in 10 years and find something they like about it. I hope it stands the test of time. I'm so proud of this album. I'm proud of myself for finally just taking on the project myself and self-producing it and just sucking it up and doing it and doing what I had always wanted to do. I hope people like it, and I hope they connect with it, and I can't believe it's finally out in the world. It's crazy to me, but this was such an incredible process. It was a beautiful journey, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. My new album, Baby Blues and Stilettos, is out now on all platforms. Go check it out. I really hope you love it.